Do you still remember the last time you saw your loved one reflected in their eyes? The afternoon sunlight streamed through the window frame and fell across my grandmother's weathered face. But in those eyes, there was none of the old sparkle of memory. Instead, there was an immense, heart-chilling void. I suddenly realized she was no longer herself. That day, she sat motionless in the same old armchair, her hand trembling as it rested on the armrest. I called out Evelyn in the same soft voice as always, but she only stared past me as if I were a stranger. The room was so quiet that the ticking of the clock sounded harsh, marking each second she slipped further away from us. I can't forget that moment. She once taught me how to tie my shoelaces and used to giggle at fairy tale stories, but now she didn't know what a shoelace was and couldn't understand why I was standing right in front of her. Her kind eyes were now clouded with confusion, and I felt the deepest sorrow. This wasn't fate's cruel joke, but Lewy body dementia, a disease without explanation, eroding memory day by day, stealing the soul of a loved one. We battled Lewy body dementia for a long, grueling 7 years, from the first stroke that plunged her into bewilderment to her final, agonizing days. Every time she was admitted to the hospital, I prayed that she'd forget the pain, but never the love. I looked at her, a woman who had once been so strong through hardships now lying there, like a torn page from a book. And then on that silent afternoon, I decided to write this letter, a letter to that merciless disease, to her shattered memories, and to the heartbroken family she left behind. I wanted to record every moment, every tear, so that LBD would know it didn't just steal her memories. It tested our patience and even dried up the laughter in a home once filled with love. Here I sit at the old wooden table, my pen trembling as it touches the blank page. I imagine her gentle breathing, the way she would drape a knitted shawl over my shoulders, our afternoons, wandering through a garden of flowers. But now, all of that exists only as fragile memories. And I write not only to record, but to challenge Lewy body dementia. Hear me, even though she is no longer herself in my heart. Her spirit lives more vividly than ever. This is the beginning of a journey to remember and to speak to the disease that stole a piece of my grandmother's soul. I write on the day I truly realized, from the moment she looked at me in confusion, unable to recognize me, to the moment this pen trembles on the page. I have decided not to remain silent, for memory is not just what has passed, but the invisible thread that binds the heart of the living to the soul of those who have gone. Immediately after my trembling pen set down that opening, I turned my thoughts to my beloved Grandma Evelyn. Grandma Evelyn was a woman whose heart was more compassionate and more resilient than anyone I have ever known. Her silvery hair carried strands of memories woven across a lifetime. Her eyes always sparkled with intelligence and kindness, ready to welcome every innocent question from her grandchild. Evelyn's nature was gentle, yet firmly resolved when it came to protecting the sacred bonds and values of our family. She poured unconditional love into her children and grandchildren, regardless of how many hardships she had endured. Whenever I stumbled in spirit, she was a steadfast shoulder upon which I could lean to find peace again. Evelyn was not only my grandmother, but also my teacher and lifelong confidant throughout my childhood. Thanks to her, I learned that true love demands no conditions, only sincerity and profound empathy. Her hands were soft, yet she never hesitated to work hard to bring joy to our little family. The memory of those afternoons when she taught me to embroider flowers on a handkerchief still fills me with emotion. In her cozy kitchen, I learned how to express love through the simplest of dishes. The sticky rice flour and the clear, sweet broth made from pork bones were the essence of her love for us over the years. Her delighted giggles as we played with dough and shaped tiny cakes still echo in my mind. My family carries a medical tradition. My mother and aunts worked tirelessly at the local hospital. Since childhood, I had heard stories of sacrifice and the noble duty of the medical profession. Evelyn often sat beside my mother, listening carefully and reminding us across generations that empathy is the most important virtue. At our family meals, Grandma Evelyn always encouraged us to share our thoughts and dreams openly. She believed that every person has a unique mission, and knowledge is the key to fulfilling that mission. My mother and aunts learned their devoted spirit from her, saving countless patients in dire need. Beyond her role as grandmother, Evelyn was the bridge between generations, preserving our family's precious traditions. The old photographs of her with her children and grandchildren in the park have become an invaluable spiritual legacy. She taught us to cherish each simple moment, from the gentle fall of a single leaf to the morning song of a bird. I still remember those afternoons when she walked me through the garden, telling me about every flower and leaf. She said that flowers are nature's miracles, and we must honor our sacred connection to the natural world. When I began medical school, Grandma Evelyn had already prepared healthcare books from decades past for me. She reminded me that medical ethics is not only about diagnosing disease, but also about healing the patient's heart. She was the inspiration behind my determination to pursue medicine, no matter the challenges ahead. Despite the difficult times in her own life, including a painful marriage, she never gave in. Her inner strength and belief in goodness helped her overcome violence and loss from her past. From her teachings, I learned to face life's trials with patience. After I was born, Grandma Evelyn became my caregiver when my mother worked the night shift. She fed me bowls of sweet congee, garnished with green onions, and lulled me to sleep with warm lullabies during stormy nights. My childhood was defined by her comforting embrace and the gentle scent of her damp cloth. Evelyn also encouraged me during the days I endured bullying because of my hearing impairment. When I came home in tears, she would wipe them away, console me, and teach me how to stand tall with confidence. Evelyn loved me not just because I was her grandchild, but because she understood the worth of each person. She urged me to hold my head high and to communicate with my eyes and smile when words failed. Because of her, I never felt alone. I always knew someone would share my pain and lighten my burdens. The bond between us became the guiding torch through every rocky path. Our family's medical background only deepened my appreciation for compassionate care and medical ethics. Grandma Evelyn often reminded us, the best physician is the one who listens even more than they speak. Those words have accompanied me through every clinic and every patient in pain. It was she who planted in me the desire to care for sufferers with all my heart. The connection among generations in our family is more than mere blood. It is empathy, the sharing of love, and the continuation of noble human values. Each time I sip the chamomile tea she brewed, I am reminded of my duty to medicine and to the community. Indeed, Evelyn was not just a grandmother, but the soul of our medical family. She taught me countless lessons about love, sacrifice, and the meaning of life. Only when Lewy body dementia began to ravage her memory did we truly grasp how precious those memories were. Love and beautiful recollections became our powerful motivation to persist. Before engaging in this dialogue with Lewy body dementia, we must know the central figure. Evelyn was not only a remarkable woman, but also the source of our family's joy and pride. From her gentle spirit to her unshakable resilience, Grandma Evelyn was a living lesson. The journey of witnessing her love and guidance has shaped who I am today. In the next section, I will unveil the most bitter moments as the disease tormented her. But at this very moment, I want to lay down my pen and thank her for giving me strength and a compassionate heart. In my heart, her teachings and love will bloom forever, like a radiant magnolia. And from here, the story of Lewy body dementia will continue to be written with the belief that memories never truly fade. After a moment's reflection, I turned to the image of my beloved Grandma Evelyn. As soon as the morning sun filtered through the curtains, I would often find Grandma Evelyn sitting at her vanity, holding a small hand mirror, her eyes distant as she studied the wrinkles on her face. The first sign I noticed of her memory beginning to fade came one summer afternoon when she forgot the name of a bright red rose she had just picked from the garden. She stroked the petals, offered a gentle smile, then shook her head and said, "Sweetheart, what is this called again?" Those hesitant words echoed in my mind, awakening a long-buried fear. Had Louis body dementia? LBD begun to steal away the precious fragments of her memory. The following week, I watched her place her car keys in a kitchen drawer and then struggle for hours to find them. She could not trust her own eyes. Her trembling hands rifled through drawer after drawer as she tried to recall where she had put that familiar key. I swallowed my discomfort when I had to guide her hand to insert it into the lock, a key she had safely stored herself for decades. Then there was her old cell phone, which she muttered at, unable to remember any of our numbers, even though we had called to remind her just days before. Each time she dialed, she hesitated, scrolling through contacts, her gaze clouded with confusion and hurt. Her condition worsened as she began confusing day with night. At dinner time, she asked whether it was time for breakfast. Some nights, she'd wake in a panic, groping at the foot of her bed for family members, and calling out the names of relatives who had passed away long ago. Sometimes she'd weep softly, anxious for no clear reason, then fall silent like a statue. I would sit beside her, holding her hand tightly, offering reassurance, even as my own heart raced with fear. Would she still recognize any of us? Then came the days when she suddenly grew harsh. The once gentle woman snapped out cruel words. "Why are you lying to me?" she demanded. When the nurses came to change a small bandage on her arm, they exchanged worried glances. In that moment, I realized that LBD not only stole her memories, but also eroded her emotional control, allowing painful recollections to resurface and weigh down her fragile spirit. Her mental decline began to manifest physically. A woman who once strolled confidently around her garden became slow and unsteady. She often forgot how to hold a spoon, turning each bite into a battle between her hands and her will. We, her family, had to learn unlimited patience, supporting her every small step to prevent falls. My mother's sighs echoed through the house each time she helped her from bed to chair. We all set aside our own lives to care for her. As the days passed, the house grew quiet. I remember her asking, "Is it just the two of us left?" In truth, our family was still whole, but to her muddled mind, nurses' grandchildren and children blended into an unrecognizable mass. Family laughter conversations and memories of gatherings faded into a mournful hush. Each afternoon, I brought her chamomile tea, hoping its fragrance would soothe her. But she merely stared at the cup as though it had lost its purpose. Deciding to place her in a nursing home was agonizing. We argued late into the night, tormented by the thought of taking away her last shred of independence. Yet when she forgot how to use the toilet, when she turned her plate upside down and let her food cool and spill, and when she woke in the night so distressed that she called out to strangers in the hallway, we knew we needed professional help. One morning, I held her close, tears streaming down my face, and whispered, "Evelyn, will you be okay? I can't do much, but I will always be here." She mustered a faint, sad smile, as if she understood the depth of my love and fear. The first time I entered the nursing home, I found her standing against the wall, quietly observing. Her silver hair and frail frame made her seem like a shadow of her former self. I reached out to guide her, but she clutched my hand tightly, her eyes glistening. In that moment, I felt frozen and silently told myself, we have done everything we could for her. Her room was small but warm, a family photo hanging on the wall. The nurses welcomed us kindly, promising to care for her lovingly. Yet my heart ached. Did she know where she was and why she had to leave the home filled with so much love? I visited every day. Each time I called Grandma Evelyn, she turned slowly, her eyes searching mine with hesitation. On some days, she remembered me offering a kind smile, only to forget my name. Moments later, I could not decide which pain was deeper, her forgetting me or my own helplessness in the face of this disease. All I knew was that no matter how much Lewy body dementia overtook her, the love of our family remained unwavering, a compass that never falters. Day after day, I recorded each change: the first time she forgot her own birthday, the first time she could not read the word Evelyn, the first time she burst into tears at the dinner table because she did not recognize the bowl of soup in front of her. I kept a journal, my shaky handwriting mirroring my anxious heartbeat, and I wrote not to dwell on sorrow, but to kindle a spark of hope, though she was drifting further from her memories. Love and beautiful recollections would remain the invisible thread tying us together. In those difficult days, our family learned to love unconditionally, just as she had taught us. Don't let the beautiful memories slip away, sweetheart. Facing Lewy body dementia has been a long journey of challenges, but it has also been a lesson in patience and compassion. Grandma Evelyn has not only lost her memories, she has shown us how to treasure every present moment. As the city lights come on each evening, I stand outside her door, listening to her steady breathing, and feel her small yet vast presence, the warm heart of our family. Even on the days when she is silent, her eyes vacant, I believe that deep inside, her spirit is still smiling at us with undying love. After a moment's thought, right after those first days of watching Grandma Evelyn struggle with her memory, I, the one who cared for her most, began to feel helplessness welling up in my chest. Every morning when I woke, I faced a list of duties I never imagined I'd have in life. Give her her pills, change her diaper, lull her to sleep. These motions, once so simple, suddenly felt unbearably heavy, laden with the deep sorrow of tending to a body while a soul slipped away. I write this down to capture the lump in my throat each time I see her fumbling with the pill bottles on her nightstand, trying to distinguish which tablet is for morning and which is for evening. She would look at me with wide eyes and ask, "What does this one do again?" I could only force a sad smile, gently pat her hand, and smooth her hair as if she were a child. I'd murmur, "Grandma, this medicine helps keep you from getting so confused." But inside, I knew no pill could restore her lost memories or heal the emptiness in her mind. Once she'd taken her medicine, I helped her sit up and guided her along the wall as she wobbled towards the bathroom. Diapers were an alien concept to a woman who'd managed her life independently for decades. I grew practiced at removing them, cleaning her, applying cream, then setting her gently onto the toilet seat. Sometimes she'd blush with embarrassment and turn away, as though she never wanted anyone to see her so vulnerable. All I could do was soothe her softly. "It's okay, Grandma. I'm right here." Even as I spoke through a voice steeled by resolve, I couldn't banish the terror that I, the one she taught everything to, was reduced to meeting her most basic needs. When I returned her to bed, I moved carefully, afraid of haste. I fluffed her pillow, tucked a soft mattress pad beneath her, and pulled the blanket up to her chin, each tug a silent wish for her peace. She closed her eyes, and her lips quivered as if to say something, but in the end only exhaled a heavy sigh, heavier than any sound I'd ever heard. In that moment, I wondered, could she feel the warmth of my hand? Or was she staring blankly into space, trapped among scattered fragments of memory? Through the long days, I revolved around her, like an emotionless automaton. Whenever she stirred awake, I was there to adjust her position, offer a sip of water, and remind her to rest her eyes. These repeated gestures etched themselves into my mind like an unending nightmare. I couldn't live with the thought that beside my beloved grandmother, I'd become someone so mechanical, just fulfilling duties. Yet more than ever, I felt useless, unable to spark a single memory for her, unable to stop LBD from erasing the gentle face I loved. At night, when the rest of the house slept, I stayed by her side. I'd switch on a small flashlight to check that her breathing was steady and that she showed no signs of seizure, then sit in silence and wait. She used to read late into the night, her soft voice carrying me into worlds of fairy tales. Now she lay there, eyes half closed, occasionally murmuring as though lost in a distant dream. I remembered our discussions over the last page of a story, our laughter at my silly questions, now replaced only by the ticking clock, her labored breaths, and the thoughts swirling in my mind. Am I doing everything I can for her? Am I losing myself in this panic? On weekends, when the family gathered, I set aside my worries to wheel her out into the garden. I helped her into a wooden chair and said, "Look, Grandma, the sun is shining so beautifully today." She gave a slight nod, but said nothing more. I spooned each cool bite of porridge into her mouth, promising myself she'd eat enough to keep her strength. Every spoonful carved into me the truth this was all I could do to save her frail body, yet I could not rescue her soul. Then one afternoon, she suddenly broke into tears, tears welling from the depths of her eyes. I instinctively cradled her hand and asked Grandma, "What's wrong? Does it hurt?" She only shook her head, weeping softly, then looked up at me with eyes stained with sorrow. We existed on two different planes, she in a world of fragmented memory, and I in the present, bearing witness to the loved one slipping away. I couldn't bear that sound of her crying. It shattered my heart into pieces. All I could do was hold her close and whisper, "It's going to be okay. Grandma, I'm here." I once believed that, after years of caring for my ailing parents, I had the patience to meet any challenge. But Lewy body dementia, a disease that ravages the senses, steals memories, and stirs up raw emotions, surpassed every limit I thought I had. I sat at the computer poring over her medical records, searching for ways to help. Yet when I came home and faced her, all my medical knowledge felt useless. Medications only manage symptoms. They cannot reconstruct memories that have faded into oblivion. In sleepless nights, I asked myself, is my life really just a cycle of pill giving, diaper changing, and soothing to sleep? I felt I was losing my purpose, reduced to tending a body and neglecting my duty to nurture her spirit. I recalled her words, "People need to feel love, not just be fed." Now I was feeding her and giving her medicine, but was I still giving her love? Or was I merely performing a duty? In the rare moments of clarity, she'd gaze at me and call my name correctly. You are." I would smile through tears. "I'm Lan, your granddaughter." She'd nod lightly before drifting off into a hazy sleep. I drew a deep breath, telling myself I have to keep going. Even if I'm falling apart, I have to be here for her. That unspoken vow became my guiding promise. Day after day, I learned to accept that some things cannot be changed. Grandma Evelyn, the beacon of our family, was now a fragile shell with trembling hands, but I could not let go. I had to give her her medicine change, her diaper rock, her to sleep, all to keep her here with me, even for one more moment. I lost so much peace of mind, but in return, I gained the chance to be by her side, to care for her while her heart lost its way. And in this utter helplessness, I realized that love is not always grand. Sometimes love is in the silent moments, in the faint smile, when she calls my name correctly, in the gentle stroke as she steadies herself to take that last pill. Love is endurance, patience, and acceptance of the unchangeable. In every breath she took in, every blink of her eyes, I found my reason to carry on for the unconditional love she gave me all my life. And I know that though LBD may claim her, she will live forever in my heart. Through each pill, each diaper, and the final sleep I tucked her into with care. Between the long sleepless nights by her bedside, a suffocating inner conflict lived inside me. I hated Lewy body dementia, the merciless disease that tore apart her memories and autonomy. But I also treasured every last fleeting moment when she still recognized me. I hated this disease for its cunning subtlety. It arrived silently, without fanfare, infiltrating her mind like an invisible invader that gradually washed away her most beautiful recollections. I hated seeing her forget her own name, forget her granddaughter's name, forget even the lessons of love she once passed down. I hated the panic in her voice when she called out, "Where is my child?" while I sat right beside her, holding her hand. Yet each time she gripped my hand more tightly or stroked my cheek with trembling fingers, I felt a fragile miracle. Though Lewy body dementia tried to strip away her soul, the bond between grandmother and grandchild endured indelible. I cherished those brief sparks of awareness, her eyes lighting up as if to say, "I know you're still here." I cherished the moments she offered a faint smile when I told stories of the past, as though those distant memories lived again, if only for an instant. One early morning, when she woke in the night, calling out for her late sister, I wept silently in the dark. I loathed the disease that made her mistake me for someone else, yet I could not fault her. Instead, I gently smoothed her hair and sang the lullaby she had sung to me as a child, hoping my voice would soothe her fear, even if she could no longer remember the words. I hated LBD for pushing her into the depths of loneliness and terror, yet I loved her more than ever as I comforted her in that moment. In the rare quiet of midday when she dozed, I sat by the wooden table, gazing at the photograph of us laughing together in the rose garden. I hated the disease that had stolen her from that vibrant world, but I also held that image close in my heart, a warm child beside her steadfast grandmother, as these were my memory revival moments. They were brief, but enough to kindle hope in my heart. Once she was busy folding a knitted shawl and suddenly looked up in bewilderment, unsure what it was. I hated Lewy body dementia for robbing her of the ability to master her own actions, but I also treasured seeing her effort to reconnect with the present. I stepped forward softly and said, "Grandma, you're folding your shawl to keep me warm." She nodded gently, her eyes brightening, as if she'd found a small anchor of trust. In that instant, I realized I lived in a paradox, yearning to restore her to the person she once was, while knowing nothing could resurrect the memories that had vanished. I hated the thought that all our efforts might be temporary, but I also understood that love and care were the truest gifts we could give her. Then when she squeezed my hand and whispered, "Thank you for being here," I broke down in tears. I hated my own tears for revealing the depth of my pain, yet I was proud that I had not backed away. Even if she only spoke my name correctly a few times a day, I treasured those moments above all else. On the bleakest days, I buried my head in my pillow, wondering why fate was so cruel as to take the one I loved most. I hated Lewy body dementia, as I would an unseen murderer, yet I could not blame her. All I could do was hold her tightly and live fully each remaining moment. In her quiet room, bathed in a soft yellow light, I told myself, as hateful as this disease is, she is still herself, a woman overflowing with love and wisdom. I hated LBD for forcing me to see her through a fogged window, but I also cherished more than ever the chance to touch the hand that had guided me through life's storms. I learned to love without expecting perfect recognition in return. I hated the disease that stole her memories, yet I knew she lived on in every breath, every blink, every sigh. I treasured each moment she understood me and accepted that even an instant of clarity was enough to fill the abyss of helplessness in my heart. Through those days, I came to see that inner conflict was not shameful, but proof of the deepest love. I hated this disease as I would a slow death, but I still gave her reasons to smile each day, even if that smile was fleeting. I accepted that although she was no longer herself, she still deserved complete love and care. I hated Lewy body dementia for teaching me a painful lesson in loss, but I was grateful that it made me see more deeply into our bond. Every time she came back for a moment, calling my name correctly or holding my hand firmly, those were precious gems I would treasure forever. In my heart, Each tear, each sigh, each half smile blended into a tragic symphony of love and sacrifice. I hated Lewy body dementia, but I always cherished the moments she allowed me to continue loving her despite everything. In that contradiction, our love rose above every ounce of pain, and I knew the memory of our bond would endure more steadfastly than any disease. When the clock struck exactly 3:16 p.m. on March 24th, 2016, the entire room seemed to freeze. The pale afternoon light outside the window faded away, leaving only the warm yellow glow dancing across Grandma Evelyn's face. I knelt beside her bed, clasping her hand, feeling each fragile breath slip from her frail chest. In that moment, no one spoke. My mother broke down in sobs, collapsing onto the edge of the bed, her shoulders shaking with each ragged breath. My father gathered my little sister, still too young to fully understand, but already exposed to so much sorrow, holding her close and whispering comfort. My cousin, utterly spent, leaned against the wall, her eyes fixed on an old photograph of Grandma Evelyn and her grandchildren laughing by the pond. The sound of our stifled sobs mingled with the ticking clock, the final tick marking the end of a gentle life. As Grandma's last breath left her body, a soft breeze seemed to drift through the room, as if she were waving goodbye. I couldn't help but remember her serene smile in brighter days, and in that sudden chill, my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Pressing my forehead to her hand, I let a single tear fall slowly, an offering to send her on to a place free of suffering. The on-call doctor tapped gently on the door and announced, "She's gone." The words "she's gone" echoed in each of our minds like a blade, deepening the wound of loss. My mother whispered through tears, "Grandma, rest in peace," and then sighed deeply, as though she had finally released an unbearable weight. We all knelt in silent prayer. My grandfather, once as strong as a fortress, now trembled as he placed his wrinkled hand on my mother's shoulder, summoning the courage to pray for Grandma's soul to ascend to heaven. From the distance, a church bell chimed, as if calling her name and opening a door to peace. My sister clung to my mother's skirt, her eyes wide but puzzled by the grief around her. I gently smoothed her hair and whispered, "Be brave, sweetie. Grandma has passed peacefully and is no longer in pain." She looked toward the window into Grandma's room, then softly placed a single hydrangea, the flower Grandma loved, into my hand, as if offering a final tribute. My cousin moved toward the little table where Grandma's portrait rested and played the recording of Ave Maria that Grandma used to sing to us each night. The gentle melody pouring from the old speaker felt like Grandma's arms enfolding us one last time. Every note carried a memory, her fairy tale stories, her embroidery lessons, her tales of hardship overcome with unwavering courage. When my mother's tears fell into Grandma's photograph, I saw the lines on Grandma's face deepen with love pain and a lifetime of sacrifice. My father bent down and kissed her forehead, murmuring words of gratitude. "Thank you for raising us." Then he helped my mother to her feet and led her out of the room, their steps heavy as they walked down the long corridor. When the funeral home attendants arrived to take her casket, our family surrounded it, each of us pressing in for one final embrace. I cradled Grandma's hand for the last time and whispered, "I'll remember you always." Though she no longer answered in that silence, I felt the warmth of her spirit, for, though her body had gone, her love remained. As the hearse rolled away, carrying Grandma out of the house, filled with laughter and family meals, I sat by the window, watching the garden trees blur past like fleeting memories. I knew that no matter how far she traveled, the love and memories she planted in our hearts would always keep her near. That night, beneath the pale moonlight streaming into my room, I lit incense at Grandma's altar. The sweet smoke curled upward in the quiet room, carrying our family's prayer. "May you find peace in the eternal realms." I sat silently as memories flooded back, the smile, the lullabies, the comforting embrace, and vowed to preserve, Grandma Evelyn's legacy of love. Grandma Evelyn's final moment was not just the end of a life, but the beginning of our journey to safeguard her memories. Our tears, our prayers, our tight embraces, they all stand as testament to the unconditional love she sowed in our hearts. Though Lewy body dementia stole her memories, she lives on in the warmth of every heartbeat of her children and grandchildren. Immediately after, the hearse silently carried Grandma Evelyn away from the home. Filled with memories, our family felt shattered by an endless void. Yet amid the heavy sobs and murmured prayers, there came a sacred moment when all our grief seemed to still the instant we let go and whispered, "It's okay to let her go." Candles flickered across the temporary altar, their warm glow scenting the room with sandalwood incense. Grandma's portrait stood framed by white wreaths. My mother, an ER physician, bowed her head, hands pressed together, her eyes reddened yet shining with unbreakable faith. She looked up at the photograph, closed her eyes, and softly whispered, "Mother, your daughter asked permission for you to depart. Everything here is taken care of. Please rest in peace." Her steady maternal voice echoed in the quiet room, offering comfort to us all. My father, a general internist who daily confronts life and death in the hospital, placed a hand on each of our shoulders in turn. With a calm strength honed by countless emergency cases, he said, "We have fulfilled our duties as a medical family. Let her pass gently, just as she taught us to cherish every moment." His resonant tone reminded us that medicine is not only about healing bodies, but also about honoring death as a natural part of life's cycle. My little sister, too young to fully grasp this journey, but a witness to Grandma's long battle with Lewy body dementia, trembled as she raised a hydrangea bouquet to the altar. In a tiny voice, she whispered, "Grandma, I know you're so tired. Mom called you so many times, but today I ask that you truly rest." In her innocent eyes, I saw extraordinary courage, the bravery to let go, to accept loss. I was proud that even at her age, she understood that true love sometimes means releasing those we hold dear. My cousin, proud heir to our family's medical tradition, stepped forward to place an incense stick on the altar. Bowing low, she murmured, "Grandma taught us that knowledge and compassion are priceless gifts. Today, we ask to give her the gift of eternal peace." Her gentle words carried weighty affirmation. The bond between us extends beyond the physical world into spiritual journeys across time. In that moment, all walls seemed to vanish, leaving only love and gratitude. I, who had known Grandma Evelyn as my guide into medicine and ethical practice, rose to lift her smiling portrait and press a gentle kiss to its frame. I whispered, "Grandma, may you rest in peace. I promise to carry forward your lessons of humanity, sacrifice, and patience, and to share them with others." This vow, a covenant across generations, reassured that her legacy of love and wisdom will never fade. That release was not just an ending, but the beginning of our journey to honor and preserve her spirit. Each of us, from my devoted mother to my seasoned physician father to the younger generations, bore the responsibility to continue. We pledged to serve in medicine, not only with skill, but with heart and mind, just as she taught us. Heal the spirit before you heal the body. As incense smoke curled upward through the still air, I surveyed our family's faces, grieving yet steadfast. We chose to release her not out of forgetting, but to grant her the final gift of peace. Perhaps this is how medical professionals, accustomed to the tension of life and death, truly honor life's worth by accepting death as an essential part of the human journey. A distant temple bell chimed gently, reminding us that life weaves joy and sorrow together. But the moment we whispered, "It's okay to let her go," affirmed a love that transcends the fear of loss and trust in life's enduring flow. Grandma Evelyn was not merely a patient overcome by Lewy body dementia. She was our great matriarch, the first teacher to so many physicians in our family. And I believe that somewhere beyond, she smiled, feeling the warmth of our love as she slipped peacefully into eternity. She left behind footprints that cannot be erased, footprints of maternal love, of wisdom, and of compassion. We, those who remain, will follow in those footsteps, carrying both the ache of her absence and hope for a brighter tomorrow. That moment of release of saying, "It's okay to let her go," closed the most inspiring chapter of her life and opened a new one in each of our hearts, a chapter of gratitude, of continuation, and of unconditional love. In our medical family, the bond between grandmother and grandchildren shines like a guiding torch through pain, so that each day of practice becomes a life fully lived with an open heart. After that decisive moment of releasing her with an "it's okay to let her go," I realized that what remained strongest was not the pain of loss, but the power of unconditional love and the legacy of memories she left behind. Time may blur the details, but it can never erase the emotions. I remember every afternoon when she would lead me for a stroll through the garden, her hand warm in mine, even after a long day of weariness. Though she departed quietly, those of us left behind have been held not only by emptiness, but by countless memories, overflowing with love. In our family, where 2 generations have devoted themselves to medicine, Grandma Evelyn was more than an inspiration. She was living proof of compassion in action. My mother, an emergency physician, often repeats Grandma's words. No matter how advanced the medicine, the deepest healing comes from empathy. She taught us that before we treat the body, we must first touch the patient's soul. Today, Grandma's legacy isn't found in any medical textbook, but in the smallest gestures, a reassuring hug, an encouraging glance, the gentle laughter that could brighten even the coldest hospital ward. I can still hear her lullaby, lie down and listen to the song of the evening breeze echoing in my mind, a magical melody that soothed even the heaviest heart. Her unconditional love flowed like a pure spring, endlessly nourishing us. Though illness weakened her body, she never lost the dignity of a mother and grandmother. In her lucid moments, she reminded us the most precious thing in life isn't wealth, but sincere love. It was that love that fueled our family through its darkest times. During those days of caring for her, every tear that fell and every weary sigh bore witness to the strength of patience. As a medical student learning to examine patients, I absorbed a priceless lesson to recognize another's pain share, that pain, and support them until their final breath. Grandma ignited in me a fire of dedication that will never go out. On the day she passed, I watched the incense smoke curl upward and imagined her smiling proud that we had fulfilled our duties as her descendants. I whispered my promise. "Grandma, I will carry your legacy into every shift and to every suffering patient." Our family's practice has been enriched by the memories of her compassion. When I enter the exam room and meet an elderly patient with anxious eyes, I think of Grandma, who once held me tightly when I was ill. I prescribe more than medicine. I offer a dose of genuine comfort. Many patients weep not only from physical pain, but because someone finally listened and understood them. Each of her grandchildren has since followed a different path, yet none of us have left behind the memory of her boundless love. Some became pediatricians, others pursued social work or teaching, ever honoring her motto, "Every profession is noble if you put your heart into it." The greatest gift she gave us was her example of selflessness and sacrifice. At every family gathering, when I gaze at her portrait on the altar, I still see her at her vanity brushing my hair. Her motto rings in my ear, "Always present yourself with care and respect. That is how you honor yourself and others." To this day, before every critical surgery, I silently repeat those words like a prayer. Grandma Evelyn taught me not only how to live, but how to die with grace, calm, and faith. Her final moments, releasing her hands with a peaceful smile, were not an end in sorrow, but the beginning of an undying memory. She left us warmth, intergenerational unity, and faith in the value of the human spirit. In the high-pressure world of medicine, every emergency feels like a fierce battle. yet I still sense her presence beside me. I recall her comforting me when I face the medicine cabinet's many vials. Don't be afraid, you will bring peace to others. It was that belief and love's healing power that steadied me each time I walked into the emergency room. Each year at the Vu Lan Festival, I bring her photograph to the temple ceremony to honor her memory. I remember the monk's words. Filial piety is not only providing material care, but preserving the virtues and love of our parents and grandparents. I know the legacy of Grandma Evelyn's love is the greatest tribute I can offer her in this life. Her clear laughter still resonates in our old home when she played with her grandchildren. I see her apron-clad in the kitchen, deftly kneading rice dough for our village cakes, teaching us that care and hard work are expressions of love. When I cook for patients, observing a fast, I realize I am extending her tradition. Late at night, after the city sleeps, I sit at my desk and read through my journal, each trembling line a breath from a bygone era. I thank her for leaving me this invisible journal in my heart, a record of love, perseverance, and sacrifice. And whenever I share our story with colleagues, I tell them it's not merely a tale of sorrow, but of unconditional love's power. I urge them, listen to your patients, look into their eyes, and give them a beautiful memory, even if only for a moment. That is what makes medicine truly meaningful. True legacies aren't found in wills or material inheritance, but in the hearts of those who receive love. I see Grandma Evelyn living on in every compassionate word, every understanding gaze, and every act of healing. She planted within us the belief that memories are immortal when nourished by profound love. So amid life's and career's countless challenges, I carry this reminder with me. The greatest healing power lies not in medicine, but in unconditional love and the legacy of memory. When I stand by a patient's bed, I believe that with this, I am not only treating the body, but healing the soul, ensuring that the memory of empathy and sacrifice shines on through each new generation. Just after the months I spent caring for Grandma Evelyn, when the once dry medical lectures in the classroom suddenly came alive with meaning, I truly understood that knowledge isn't confined to textbooks, but must be tempered by experience and heart. In that warm room, scented with sandalwood incense, her portrait honored on the altar, I saw clearly the connection between professional expertise and the virtue of patience, two indispensable pillars for caring for a loved one through life's fiercest storms. As a university student, I diligently took notes on pharmacology formulas and treatment protocols, yet I never grasped how crucial it was to translate that knowledge into acts of selfless service. From the moment she first forgot my name to the day she could no longer sit up on her own, I learned that medical knowledge only truly matters when it springs from unconditional love and boundless patience. My mother, an emergency physician who has saved hundreds of lives, taught me this lesson best. Caring for patients isn't just about prescribing medicine or making diagnoses. It's about understanding their fears, their loneliness, and their pain. She would bring me to the ward early so I could watch her sit on an elderly patient's bedside, gently clasp their hand, and ask, "How are you feeling today? Is there anything else I can do for you?" These simple gestures often brought tears of gratitude when patients realized someone genuinely cared. I adopted her approach in caring for Grandma Evelyn. Each time I gave her medicine, I didn't merely recite the drug's name like a parrot. I explained its purpose. This pill will help ease your confusion so you feel less dizzy. This one aids digestion to keep nausea at bay. Though her mind was slowly eroded by Lewy body dementia, she would manage a grateful nod, an enormous effort for her faltering memory. Patience became my second teacher. When Grandma forgot how to hold a spoon, I couldn't rush her. I guided her step by step. Place the spoon at the bowl's edge, tilt your wrist slightly, then bring the spoon to your lips. With gentle repetition, she reclaimed that skill, at least for a moment, and I witnessed the power of perseverance, even when results were fleeting. Many nights, I stayed awake, seated beside her, meticulously recording every change in her sleep appetite and mood. Those notes not only helped her doctors fine-tune her care plan, but also deepened my own understanding of LBD's progression, preparing our family emotionally for each new challenge. No piece of knowledge is wasted. No act of patience is in vain, I reminded myself, as I filled page after page with tears and determination. The value of knowledge and patience extended far beyond Grandma's bedside. I preserved our routines and cherished memories to maintain our spiritual bond. When she couldn't remember her grandchildren's names, I gently pinned name tags to her sweater. Evelyn, this is Lan, this is Anne, this is Hai. And in her brief moments of clarity, she'd smile as if she recognized us all. I learned that memories may flicker out quickly, but the warmth of love can bloom again, even if only for a heartbeat. Our family's medical tradition places great emphasis on medical ethics, a concept never found in an exam, but lived through every gesture and word. Grandma often recalled her own hardships sewing clothes by hand and preparing simple yet nourishing meals for her children. That lesson remains timeless. Caring for loved ones isn't a chore, but an expression of love. In tending to her, I never hesitated to adjust her blanket fluff, her pillow, or gently stroke her cheek when her breathing grew labored. That patience was the purest testament to filial devotion and true medical compassion. I discovered that knowledge paired with patience can yield unexpected miracles. Once under meticulous care, precise medication, and constant emotional support, Grandma recovered far more quickly from pneumonia than anyone anticipated. My mother marveled. I never thought devotion and attention could act like such a powerful spiritual antibiotic. That recovery was not just a triumph of medicine, but proof of patience's healing power. Even in Grandma's final days, when her condition could no longer improve, our knowledge and patience guided us. We managed her pain, shielded her from the terror of Lewy body dementia seizures, and took turns singing softly until she drifted into calm sleep. Our lullabies became her last line of defense against fear. And when she let go peacefully on March 24th, 2016, we knew we had done everything we could. From these experiences, I brought a new perspective back to the lecture hall and the clinic. I now teach students that medicine isn't just dry theory, but a calling to love, patience, to listen patiently, and to observe carefully. I share Grandma Evelyn's story so they understand that in every treatment, the greatest difference isn't the dosage, it's the healer's heart. Finally, I want to underscore the message engraved in our family's soul by Grandma Evelyn herself. Even when illness takes a body memory and love remain immortal. She may have passed on, but her lessons and knowledge, patience, unconditional love, and the legacy of memory live on within us. From the generations of medical professionals in our family to every hand that cared for her, we carry that flame forward. It reminds us that no matter what challenges lie ahead, true compassion transcends time and disease, ensuring that the memories of our loved ones travel with us, immortal in our hearts.